remind you that for more Microsoft webcasts, you can go to Microsoft.com/webcast. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's presentation, PowerShell, Learn It Now Before It's an Emergency, part 1 of a 5-part series, and it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter, Ed Wilson. Ed, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. This is Ed Wilson, and I'm the Microsoft scripting guy, and today we're going to talk a little bit about PowerShell. I think that PowerShell is one of these kinds of things that you learn it best by using it. And so, we've got a few slides, but mostly we're going to kind of be doing demo things. So this is the first slide here where it says, PowerShell, learn it now, blah, blah, blah. That's me. It says I'm the scripting guy. I've written a couple of books on PowerShell, and I work for Microsoft. So getting started, or where did it go, or how do I know if I've got PowerShell 2.0 installed? Well, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that PowerShell is installed by default on Windows 7. So if you've got Windows 7, you've got PowerShell. It also shows up on Windows Server 2008 R2. The PowerShell console does. If you want to add the script editor, which I'll show you guys later, then you have to add that as a feature. If you've got Vista or XP or 2003 or something like that, then you're not going to need to download and install PowerShell 2.0. The easiest way to get it is to actually just simply use Windows Update, and that'll help you get your dependencies and everything else. But you can also get it from from the downloads page if you want to. Once you've installed PowerShell, or if you start looking around for it, you might not necessarily find it, and that's because we kind of hid it. And, well, we didn't deliberately hide it, but that's kind of where it shows up. Let me show you how to find that, actually. So I'm going to share my desktop, and then we'll scroll over. And so if we come over here and we go to Start, and then we go to All Programs, and then we come down to Accessories. Then once you get on down into Accessories, then you have Windows PowerShell. And then once you're at Windows PowerShell, then you've got these icons. So it says Windows PowerShell and the PowerShell ISE. Now on my particular computer, I'm running a Windows 7 64-bit. So there is a Windows PowerShell x86, a Windows PowerShell ISE x86, and then there is also the Windows PowerShell ISE, and then where it just says Windows PowerShell. And so those 4 icons all launch PowerShell, but from kind of different places and in different ways. The ISE is the script editor. You can think of it as saying as an integrated script editor or integrated script environment or just ICE, whatever you want to call it, it's fine. And we'll take a look at that in a little bit. The Windows PowerShell icon itself and the PowerShell x86 icon, that's the blue console that you may have seen or been familiar with in the past. And this allows us to work in an interactive mode. The thing that's cool about it is that I can type commands directly here. So, for instance, I can type dir and press enter, and I get a directory listing. I can type cls, and that will clear my screen. I can use an up arrow and retrieve my previous commands. I can take a look at that. So a lot of the commands that you may have been familiar with, commands that you may have used in a command prompt in the past, you can use directly here. So, for instance, if I want to make a directory, I can say MD, and just give it a C:\\, FSO, 328, and press enter, and now I'm there. I can change the directory to that. I can say CD, C:\, FSO, Now, we have a thing that's called tab expansion. So every time I press my tab key, it's cycling through the choices that are available. And so now it comes up with FSO 328. I press enter. I'm there. If I type dir, well, there's nothing there. So, then at this point, we could create files or something like that. I can type CD and go back to my root directory and clear the screen and get rid of all of that stuff. So that's the PowerShell console. It's fun. It's generally, it's what I use most of the time when I'm working with PowerShell. As a matter of fact, I use it instead of the command prompt. So anything that I need to type at a command prompt, I type inside the Windows PowerShell console. And the thing that's cool about that is that once I'm there inside PowerShell, there's a whole lot more things that I can do than I could do at a console, at a command prompt rather. And so it works out really cool, and that's the way I use it. So this is the next slide. Over here, we're back sharing the slide again. And it lets you know that on XP 2003 Vista, PowerShell is not installed. On 2008, PowerShell 1.0 was on the disk, but it had to be added as a feature. And I've already mentioned there that the easiest way to install PowerShell is to actually just simply use Windows Update. You can improve it on SUS server, have it deployed to your workstations and stuff like that. There is a Hey Scripting Wife or a Scripting Wife article that ran last year that goes through step by step about where to find PowerShell and how to do a manual install on a Windows XP machine. And I'll show you where those are in just a little bit. Okay, so this is the package that you might want to download if you to do the manual install of PowerShell. It's listed as KB968929, and if you go to this link, the web page is kind of it's kind of busy to say the least, and the reason is it lists all of the different packages that are available. So you've got like a 32-bit version of XP, you got the 64-bit version, and you got the package for XP in 2003 and 2008 and Vista and all the different flavors. And so it's one great big old long page. The thing that even makes it a little bit more confusing is called the Windows Management Framework instead of PowerShell 2.0. I've got the direct link on the Script Center download page. So if you just go to the Scripting Guys site, you can click on that, and it'll take you right there. Let me kind of show you where that's at. So I'm going to share Internet Explorer right now. So. Okay, so this is the Script Center homepage, and right over here is our downloads section. But I've also got a link directly on the main page to take you to that download page, and so it'll get there in just a second. There we go, and you can see it says Windows Management Framework and PowerShell 2, WinRM, and Bits. And then as you scroll down through here, it talks a little bit about what all of these things are, and talks about some of the main features of PowerShell and Bits. And then you get on down here to just keep going, and now you're at all of the different downloads for all of the different packages and all of that stuff. So, like I said, the page is very informative. It has a lot of information on it, but it is just kind of a bit busy. If you wanted to see the Scripting Wife article that I was talking about, from our main Script Center page, and this is www.scriptingguys.com. And that resolves to TechNet.Microsoft, that's Script Center, all that stuff. So if you go to the scripting subpage, and then if you scroll down to the bottom section where it says Windows PowerShell, then you can come on down from there, and then you can find the Scripting Wife tag. Where's it at? It should be right along in here somewhere, Scripting Wife. There we go. And then since this is a blog, this is the blog that I write every single day. then that means that the articles are in reverse order. So you have to go to the very beginning. And from the very beginning, you can find that one of the first things that the scripting wife decided to do was to install PowerShell on her computer. And so this is, she did this last year. And so she did do Windows Update to do the install. And she came over here, she found it. It didn't have the Windows Core, the Core framework for the .NET framework, so she had to do that, and then she just kind of stepped through it. And then she couldn't find it, so she had to go to Programs, Accessories, PowerShell, and on hers it was a 32-bit version of XP, so she only had the 2 icons and not the 4 that I have. And so this is Scripting Wife articles. As a matter of fact, those have been really, really popular, and you don't have to navigate the way that we did there because we've got an access icon directly from the Script Center homepage. It says Scripting Wife. And so if you click on that, it takes you to this tag cloud immediately. So you don't have to walk around to it that way. Okay, the Scripting Wife articles are actually really good because they're they're step-by-step articles, and you know, the Scripting Wife is actually a real person, and she is she's my wife. That's why she's the Scripting Wife. Actually, she would say that I'm her husband, but she was an accountant by trade, and so she's not a computer professional, but she'd used computers. She's retired a couple of years ago to travel around the world with me while I was teaching PowerShell everywhere. And so she just kind of started getting interested in it. And last year when we were doing the 2010 scripting games, she saw me getting all excited about the events, and you know, she would see me talking to different people, and she said, well, that sounds like it'd be kind of fun. And so I jumped over on our computer that we have in the kitchen, and I sent out a tweet really quick, and I went to Facebook and basically said the Scripting Wife has agreed to compete in the 2010 scripting games. At which point in time she looked at me and she said, I wish you hadn't done that. And I said, well, it's gone out live to the world now. You have to. And so I did that deliberately to keep her from backing out. And so then I had to teach her PowerShell. And so that's the experience behind the Scripting Wife articles. So they're really, really step-by-step stuff. They're things that she keeps me from not saying things that are too geeky. So she helps me to to explain things to just a normal person, and she's a normal person. And so for instance, I might say that, well, we need to get the PID of this process. And she doesn't know what a PID is, and so she forces me to explain those things. And yes, so the Scripting Wife articles have been a lot of fun to do, and they've been quite popular with people. So if you're not familiar with those, you should definitely check those out. She doesn't. We don't have Scripting Wife articles all the time, because it's called Hey Scripting Guy, not Hey Scripting Wife. But she shows up around the times for the scripting games in particular, and just from time to time, when she's bored and wanting to do some other stuff. So I've got the next slide up, and Windows 7, 2008 R2, PowerShell is in fact in the box. On 2008 R2, the PowerShell console is installed, but the ISE is not. I mentioned that. That's that script editor that I'll show you in a little bit. Now, one of the reasons that you might not want to install the ISE on your server is simply for the fact that it requires the .NET Framework 3.5. And if you have some particular reason for not wanting to have that on your machine, then of course you wouldn't want to install the ISE because of that requirement. In that case, I guess you could use Notepad to write scripts and save them as a PS1. In fact, Notepad was the editor that Microsoft had for VB scripts. If you've done VB script before using Notepad, then you'll be familiar with that tool. The other thing that we'll talk about probably tomorrow is that scripting support is turned off in PowerShell. So as soon as you install Windows PowerShell, you can't run a script, and well, not without doing some other stuff, which I'm not going to go into right now. And so in order to turn on script support, you can use group policy, or you can use a set execution policy commandlet. The scripting wife actually does that in about the third or fourth of her articles when she gets ready to start to write scripts. The reason that we do that is that because we figure that a lot of people aren't going to be doing PowerShell scripting, and so therefore we did not want it enabled by default. In fact, at the time we were thinking that most people aren't going to be running scripts, and so if most of the people are not going to use a feature, then we want that feature turned off. And then if you know that you want to use that feature, then at that point you would be ready for the teachable moment that would show you how to enable it. It's simple to do in an enterprise. You just turn on the group policy, and even in a work group, you can easily write a PowerShell a batch file that would call the PowerShell command to enable that feature. So it's not a huge deal. On Windows 2008 R2 Core Edition, you can add the PowerShell console as a feature, and we don't have the ISE because of the lack for the graphical elements of the .NET framework and the 3.5 and stuff. So that's basically the different flavors or the different combinations that you might have. So at this point, I've showed you that we can go to Start, Programs, Accessories, Windows PowerShell, and start it. Personally, I don't do that because I use the PowerShell every single day. I have a shortcut that I put on my quick launch bar, and we actually even talk about that in a scripting wife article. So let's go to my PowerShell console and switch over to there. And so here we are. Some of the things that you may want to do with PowerShell is there's a number of commandlets that are really easy to use. And now commandlets are these things that they have a two-part name, like get help or get process or get service. And so let's take a look at one of those. So for instance, get process. So I can say get dash. Now the way I'm typing this, let me go back over here. I type GET-P, and then I hit the tab key. And when I do this, then it will fill out the rest of the command. Now it kind of cycles through these. So the first one that it comes up with is get PFS certificate. Now that should actually tell you that you can use PowerShell to work with certificates. That's actually pretty cool. But if I hit tab again the second time, then it comes up to process. Well, what if I hit it a third time? Well, then now I get to get PS breakpoint. Now that's actually a commandlet that we can use for doing debugging stuff. So in PowerShell 2, we have a real live honest-to-goodness debugger. So I can set breakpoints and clear breakpoints and all kinds of stuff like that. But, dude, I want to get process. And so, well, what can I do? Well, what I used to do is I would just keep on hitting my tab key and keep on going and going and going, until I got back there. But it's like, oh, dude, man, I skipped it again. So now we go through again, and maybe we hope that we don't drink so much coffee in the future. Well, one of the things that we can do is we can actually do this. So I've stopped, okay? Stop. Take your hands off the keyboard, okay? So if I hold down Shift and I press the tab key, then now we go backwards. So if you go too far when you're hitting the tab key, you can hold down the Shift and go back, and then that will take you back 1 week. So we say over here, and we say Garibi. So now we hit the Enter key. 1, 2, 3. We hit Enter, and boom. Look, all kinds of cool stuff comes back. Now, we can scroll up and down. And on my computer with my mouse, the little roly-wheelie thingy at the top works out pretty good. And these mice, I've got like a wireless mouse, And with the little roly-willy thing, you can actually turn them upside down and use them for roller skates. They work pretty good. Just joking. All right, so git process. Now, this gives me a whole bunch of information about my processes. So we've got the ID. That's that PID I was talking about earlier. We've got handles. That'll kind of help you get a handle on your processes. We can find out the private memory and the working set and the virtual memory and the amount of CPU time and all kinds of really cool stuff. Now, one of the things that you might be noticing is that, like, well, dude, some of this information is missing. And yes, that is true. And the reason for that is that I have my PowerShell console running as a normal user. I do not have it elevated, so I'm not running it as administrator. And so for certain of these commandlets, where Windows requires admin rights to be able to view the information, then PowerShell respects that, and so you will not see that kind of information. So the easiest way to do that is to right-click on PowerShell, say Start as Administrator. So now you're launching it with the elevated privileges, or you can use Run As if you need to. I consider it to be a best practice that I run my PowerShell console as a non-admin, and then only on those occasions in which I need the elevated rights, or as the tool time guy might say, I need more power, then I will right-click on that and say Run as Administrator. So I need more power, so we can do that. But I consider that to be a best practice. Because, for one thing, if you're an admin type or an IT pro, you'll want to know what tasks require elevation so that you can provide elevation or make allowances for that in the scripts that you deploy or send out to your user community. If if you're not aware of that, then all of a sudden you send these scripts out, and then sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work, and that's not like a whole lot of fun. Okay, so we get processes, and we can get the information. Now, along with this, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to show you how easy it is to start a process. So I'm going to start a process. We're going to start a process that's called Notepad. So, ready? 3, 2, 1, Notepad. Press Enter. Boom, it just started. Hey, that was kind of fun. Let's do it again. So I can press my up arrow, and I can press it. Woo! I can go back over here. I'll do it again. Press up arrow. Hey, there it goes. Sweet. Okay, well, we could do that all day long. I'm easily entertained sometimes. Now, if I want to go back and find out about my processes, well, I can use the up arrow, and I can cycle through this. Yeah, whoops. But, sometimes I get confused, and I get dizzy, by up arrow and down arrow and tabbing back and forth and all that stuff. So in this case, it makes sense to get the history of my commands. So I can actually say get-history, and see, that's help, history, and I can press Enter, and it gives me the history of all the commands that I've typed. We also have a thing that's called an alias, or a shortcut, or a nickname, and the alias is H. H is short for history. And so now when I press Enter, we can say, woohoo, that works. Well, we have another alias, and it's actually called history. But dude, it's like if I'm going to use an alias, which is a shortcut nickname, then why do I want to do all of that typing when I can just simply use this much typing? 1 letter is always easier to type than 7 letters. Okay? Matter of fact, it's 7 times easier to type than 7 letters. So we type 1 letter, and we say groovy. And so now this lists all of my commands. Now, the next thing I'd like to do is to invoke a command. And we're not going to do that one because that's unlucky. So we'll do the one that's number 3. So how do I invoke history item number 3? Well, one of the ways that I could do this is if I just happen to know what it is, which I do. But if you don't, then we can use get command to try to find out what it might be. So I can say get command, and I'm going to look for a noun, not name, noun. of history that has something to do with history, H-I-S-T-O-R-Y, and we'll do another wildcard there. And it comes back and it says, well, cool. Okay, we got get history and invoke history. Sweet. But, you know, that just looks like an awful lot of typing. Well, we'll try it. I-N-V-O-K-E-H, press my tab key. That's still quite a bit of typing. And now we decided we didn't want to do the 13 because that's unlucky. So we're going to invoke process ID number 3. So I say 3, and I say Groovy. And at this point, we've came back with all of our process information. But, you know, I'm not interested in all of that process information. I'm only interested in my 3 notepads over here. So, let's see. How can I get the information about just those 3 notepads? Well, now this is the problem with invoke history. Because if I try to run this, you know, then guess what? I get exactly the same stuff I had before. Well, bummer. You know, I don't want all of that stuff. I only want the stuff about Notepad. Well, let me show you a trick. This is what I like to do. I take my history, so I can say H and get my history. And now I can come over here, and I can hold my mouse down with the left key, and I highlight it, and then I press Enter. That puts it on my clipboard. Now, this is really cool. I don't even have to move my mouse if I don't want to. I can come down here to the prompt and right-click, or I can right-click anywhere in my console. And when I right-click, it adds it back to my command line. That's cool. So now I can say Notepad and press Enter, and voila. I only have my information about Notepad. So that's pretty cool. Now, suppose I want to stop these Notepad processes. Well, now we can use what we call the pipeline. And so using this verb noun thing, so the verb is get, to get processes. The verb is stop, to stop processes. So I can press my pipe here, and I can say stop dash process. That's interesting. Now, at this point, what's going to happen? If I press Enter, what's going to happen? Well, there might be a number of things that could happen. It might stop all of the processes. It might give me an error. It might come up and say, it's like, dude, you know, this isn't going to work, or what do you want to do? You know, it might give me a prompt. You know, there's all kinds of things that might happen. I'm going to show you right now a command that I predict will add just a little bit of uptime to your machines. And I would ask, I could say, we could do like a polling vote kind of a thing, and I could say, you know, how many of you have ever run a command, typed a command, and pressed Enter, and ran a command, and you were not sure what it's going to do? And if I did this, we've got 375 people signed in right now. Now, not counting the people that are watching the live meeting on the Script Center. And if I was to ask you, now we've got 376, I would probably say that at least 370 some of you would have to say, if you were honest, that you had in fact ran a command and you weren't sure what it was going to do. Hopefully you didn't do it on a production server, but maybe you did. I mean, I'll admit that I've ran commands and pressed Enter that I didn't know what they were going to do. Well, the nice thing about PowerShell, the absolute way cool thing about PowerShell, the absolutely awesome, you know, fantastic, and if you act now, it's completely free thing about PowerShell is, guess what? We have a thing that says, dude, what's this going to do? Well, actually, it's not dash dude, what's this going to do? It's actually called dash what if? What if? What if I run this command? And I press Enter, and now it's going to come back, and it's going to say, performing operation stop process on target notepad. Boom, boom, boom. Those 3 notepads, it will, in fact, stop if I run the command without what if. Well, let's try it. Let's find out if it's lying to us or not. So we get rid of that, and we press Enter. Okay, they're gone. Well, how do I know they're gone? Well, I can come back over here and say Get Process Notepad. And now it actually gives me an error, which is kind of rude, but it says I cannot find a process with the name of Notepad. Verify the process name and try again. Well, I don't need to try again. All I wanted to know is if they're there or not. And now, obviously, the answer is not. They are not there. So cool. So we got rid of our 3 Notepad processes. Now, this is something that's very, very cool. I don't know if you've ever had a chance in which you were like you double-click an icon, nothing happens. You double-click an icon, nothing happens. Double-click an icon again, and nothing happens. And so it's like, well, dude, nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, boom, now you got 25 copies of a process that are running on your machine. Well, all you've got to do now is you say get the process, the name of the process, pipe it to stop process. I would recommend that you use the what if thingy. Make sure that that's exactly what it's going to do, and then you say groovy. I mean, for instance, if you did like a get process and you pipe this to stop process, what's this going to do? Well, let's use what if. Yeah? Dude, that's like going to kill my machine. It's going to stop every process on my box. So that's one of these kind of commands you don't want to do. You really don't want to do, particularly, if you're like in the middle of doing a demo in front of, 400 and some people. So, that's monkeying around with processes. Let's kind of go back to our PowerPoint slide deck again, since I worked so hard on my slide deck. Some easy things to do, okay? Well, let's see here. Oh, I'd love to do this. So we're going to highlight this. We talked about that, and this, and this. Oh, we haven't done this yet, so we'll do that. We just got done doing that, but we haven't done these guys over here. Get lost. I'll tell you now, this one, unfortunately, that command doesn't work. So you can't, like somebody comes up and tries to bug you, you can't type get lost and press enter. That doesn't happen. But we do have get help. So we're going to pop back over here. I'm going to show you how to remove a directory. Then we will monkey around with some services and some event logs. Okay? So hold on. Come back over here. Go back to the PowerShell console. And I think this would be a good time to demonstrate using cleared screen. So CLS, so there it's gone. Bye-bye. It's out of there. It's history. Cool. So if I type dir, that gives me a directory listing. And so we want to get rid of this particular folder that we created earlier, FSO 328. So I can just say RD for remove directory, C:\FSO. Notice I can use tab expansion to tab over here to get rid of these things, and I say groovy, and it's gone. Bye-bye. Out of there. It's history. Okay. So now we can use get service. Now, get service is really cool. It's very similar to get process. So I just say get service, and I press enter, and voila. It comes back, and it gives me all kinds of information about services. The services that are running, the services that are stopped, and so forth and so on. Now, suppose I would like to filter this list. Well, if I wanted to filter this list so that I only had services that had a status that was equal to running, I can do this. It's a step up though from what we've been looking at so far. So let's say get service, and now I'm going to use what's called the pipeline. We used it already, so it's nothing scary here. We used the pipeline, and we did the stop the process thingy. So we said get the process, pipeline, stop the process. And it worked out pretty cool. So get service. Now we're going to pipeline. And what we want to do now is we want to filter things out. So we want to say where, where what? Like where did my little dog go? No. It's more along the lines of where can we find only our services that are running. Okay? Now, in order to do this, we need to be able to look at every single service as it comes across the pipeline. So we want to look at this service, and then we want to look at this service, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and so forth and so on, until we have gone through all of these services, okay? And we're going to look at the status of every single one of these services. So we come over here, where. Now, in order to do this, we use $_, okay, period, and then status. Okay, so where $_, refers to each of these services as they come hopping across this pipeline. La, 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 la. Okay, so they come hopping across the pipeline where the status is equal to, okay, quote, running. Close my quotes, close the curly bracket, and press enter. And when we do, now we have only the services that are running. So that works out pretty cool. So get service, pipeline, where the status is equal to running. Okay? Now these curly brackets are called a script block or a code block or curly brackets or wavy curly fry thingies. You know, whatever you want to call them is fine with me. And they signify that this is the code that I'm going to run on these items when they come through. So this becomes a filter that filters out my processes. Okay? Let's see here. So that's working with services. Now, one of the things that I love to do with Windows PowerShell is that if I use get event, okay, let's go back here, get event log, and I specify that I'm interested in the log name of application, and I say that I'm only wanting to find out about the newest 3 events, and I can press enter. Now, the thing that's really cool about this is faster. This is faster than going over here and going start, programs, administrative tools, you know, event log viewer, and then saying, yes, I want to run this, you know, and then wait for 5 minutes for it to come up. Okay, I can type this command and get this information on my application log faster than I can use the GUI. Okay, so it worked out pretty cool. Suppose I'm interested in my event log with logs that are called from my system log, and I say that I'm looking for the newest 3 entries from there. That works too. So this is faster than using the GUI tool. And I can filter this by using that where clause, you know, just like I was filtering over here. So I can find out, you know, events from today or yesterday, or all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's pop back over here to our slide deck for a second. And so we looked at the services and the event logs. Get help. Okay, we haven't done get help yet, so let's take a look at get help. We'll click over here. We've done the demo already. Cool. And so we'll come back and talk about learning resources and grab the questions that we've got. Okay, so we're going to go back over here to PowerShell, get help. Okay, now one of the nice things about PowerShell, so I'm going to clear the screen again, CLS, is that I can find help on things. So for instance, you might want to know, well, how did I know that I could pipeline my processes from get process to stop process? Well, I can say get help. Get process, and it comes back, and this tells me the information about the processes. So this is how I knew, for instance, that I could use the name Notepad to get my process information. Look, I can also run this against a remote computer. See where it says computer name? So I can find process information from a server or a workstation or some remote machine that's in my domain. There is no information here that it would allow me to type in credentials, so it's going to impersonate me. So therefore, I can do it on a local machine or a remote machine, but not against an untrusted network or something like that. There's other ways to find that. This is my basic information. Now, the next thing we can do is we can say, well, show me only the examples. And this is really cool. We've got some excellent examples with our help. They start off with the basics. Then they show you how you can format information. They show you how to filter information and store it and do other kinds of really cool, crazy kinds of things. Then some pretty nice information there about letting you find out the file version of stuff, the modules that are loaded with the process, all kinds of very detailed information. This help information, these examples are very, very good. Okay? Now, the next thing that we can do there's another view, and it's called the full, and that's F-U-L-L, not F-O-O-L. And so this will let me get the full information from my health, and blah, 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 blah. It goes right there. You have to read really fast. If you can't read quite that fast, one of the things you can do is send this to the more command. Okay? And that works out really cool. It allows you to send it to the pager, and you can page through the information. Now, one of the things that's cool about that is if you know that you're going to look at the full information, and you know that you want to use the pager, then we have a function that's just simply called help, and it will automatically call get help and send it to your pager for you. And so you press enter, and now you can page it. La 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 la. Okay, cool. So let's go back to our presentation, and we've got like 13 minutes left. And so I'm going to take a look at some of the questions that we've got right now. Hold on for a second. So, any minimum requirements for service computers against which PowerShell commands can be run? Yes. And no. Okay. If I want to use PowerShell remoting, which we did not talk about today, then if I want to use like invoke command or start a remote session on a remote machine, then that machine would need to be running Windows PowerShell 2.0. Now, Windows PowerShell 2.0 will run on Windows XP 2003, Vista 2008, 2008 R2, Windows 7. So all of those that we can install Windows PowerShell 2.0, then we can run remote commands against those by using PowerShell remoting. If, on the other hand, I am using WMI, which we didn't talk about today, then I can use getWMI-object, and I can talk to any remote machine that uses WMI, like Windows 2000, even NT4, any machine that's running WMI, then I would be able to do that. Any of these 5 parts going to focus on Exchange? No, we're not going to do that. Can PowerShell elevate a command after the script has started? No. But what we can do is we can call PowerShell, and in our script, if we need elevated rights, we could call run as and have run as start the script again in an elevated prompt. That would allow you to kind of mimic the Unix command sudo. So directly inside PowerShell, we don't have the ability to like elevate a command after the script started. But in your script, there's nothing to, you can call run as and relaunch the script with elevated rights. Discovered that group policy admin files for PowerShell do not come installed on 7 by default. That is true. That is true. How can you tell from the prompt what version of PowerShell you got? Okay, cool. We can do that. Hold on. So we're going to pop over here to the PowerShell prompt. Come on. Okay, here we go. Now there is a variable. $PS home? Nope. $PS, I missed it. Go back over here. Version table. So $PS version table will tell you the version of PowerShell that you've got. It will tell you the version of the common language runtime, give you your build version, compatible versions, and all of that stuff. So $PS version table. If I'm only interested in the PS version, then I can say $PS version table, and then say PS version if I wanted to pull that out directly. And that would give it like that. Okay? So, that's an automatic variable that will tell you about what version of PowerShell that you've got. Okay, let's go back to our Q&A. I think I've installed PowerShell 1 with the Wake for Windows. How can I use PowerShell and the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit to automate or customize things more? I have no idea. I have not played with the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, so unfortunately I can't help you there. Show event failures. Okay, so I guess they're saying that show event fails, or they're wanting to find errors with that. I'm not sure what that question's about. What are the advantages of using PowerShell versus a command line? Well, one of the cool things about using PowerShell versus the command line is that it's a lot more powerful and it's a lot more flexible. By that, it means that I have access to the complete, PowerShell scripting language, so I can actually write scripts at the command line, do script-like kinds of things, and it's easier to use. For instance, there is like TList, which will give you a list of information in a command prompt, and you can use that in PowerShell as well. You can use the net shell. So anything that you can do in the command line, you can do in PowerShell, but there's lots of stuff you can do in PowerShell that you can't do at the command line. So that's why I use PowerShell. I've been using PowerShell as my command prompt for more than 5 years, and I haven't had any issues. Let's see, what's the next question here? He said we can use WMI against remote machines, but that is only within our domain or if we have some privilege. That is correct. You can't use WMI to pull out information from a domain that you don't have access to. Also, WMI needs a lot of holes in your firewall to be able to access, and so that could be an issue as well. You can use WinRM to do WMI types of commands, and that will allow you to. That's more firewall friendly. But yeah, I mean, there's there are caveats to trying to use WMI against a remote machine, something that you don't have privileges on. Can I tell you how to list or show all of the PowerShell variables like PowerShell Home? Sure, I can do that. That's easy. So we're going to pop back over to the PowerShell console. Okay, so I can use, there's several ways I can do this. I'm just going to say dir on the variable drive. And this will give me a listing of all of these variables. Now, since I haven't created any of these variables, they're automatic variables. So we have like a confirm preference that's there. This is one that I actually like to change on a regular basis, maximum history count. In fact, I have changed this on my machine. Maximum history count by default is set to 64. Remember where I showed you get history, and so that showed you the machines or the number of commands that I had typed. Well, I've set that to 128. My servers is a variable that contains the listing of server names, and I create that in my PowerShell profile as well. But yeah, so those are all the automatic variables that are there, and they're kind of easy to find. Let's go back and look at some more questions here. Let's see here. How can I get a listing of aliases? Okay, well, the easy way to do that is to use get alias commandlet, and that will give you a listing of all of your aliases. Let's go to the next question. Is there a tell command within PowerShell? Not by default. You create a function and call it tell and have it do exactly the same things we can. Can we use PowerShell against IIS 6.0 WMI classes? Yes, you can. I've got a whole chapter about it in my Windows PowerShell scripting guide that I wrote for Microsoft Press, and that was all using the WMI classes from within PowerShell. How difficult it is to convert an existing VB script to PowerShell? Well, it depends. If it's a simple script, it's really easy. If it's more complicated, it might be more complicated. I'm being slightly facetious. Let's pop over for a second on the Script Center. And the reason is because I did a whole series of articles about migrating PowerShell to a VB script. So we go to the all tabs, or all tags rather, and we go to PowerShell. And let's see here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find these really quick. Oh, there it is, VB script migration. Good. So I've done enough series of them that it shows up by its own. I've got a whole series of articles here about migrating VBScript to PowerShell, and so definitely that would be the best place for you to start. Can we make VBScripts deployable so that they will run on remote machines? Yeah, you can. There's a number of ways to do that. Probably the easiest way is to use remoting that would allow you to do that. If we miss tomorrow's demo, will we be able to view it later? Yes, these should be saved. Will one webcast go over running scripts with alternate credentials? No, I'm not planning on doing that. Is there a better approach to performing admin functions, typing a set of commandlets at the, which is a better approach to performing admin functions? Typing a set of commandlets at the PowerShell command prompt or running a script? Well, it depends. If this is something that you only need to do on one machine and you can do it very fast, then I would recommend that you just simply type the commands directly. However, if you want a record of what you've done, to make sure that you save your history out. If you need to write against multiple machines, then a script is probably going to be easier and faster. There's no difference between a script and a PowerShell commands. It's just that one has an extension. Point you to resources on using PowerShell to manage Exchange. Let's see, I've got a chapter in my my PowerShell resource guidebook about managing Exchange with PowerShell, but that's just a chapter, and it is 2007. There is the Exchange blog is probably going to be the best place. I don't know of any specific PowerShell and Exchange books off the top of my head. Yes, all commandlets use verb-noun pairing. What's the difference between creating a function and a script? Functions act like scripts and can essentially just simply be a script that only contains a function. Can PowerShell handle FTP or encryption methods? Yes, it can, but not directly. You have to use the .NET Framework classes to write the code, or there are commandlets from a company called Net Commandlets that does FTP. Light encryption for PowerShell. VBScript did not have encryption. That was encoding, and so VBE were encoded. It was just a very simple base 64 encode. It could very simply be base 64 unencoded. You can do exactly the same thing with PowerShell. I don't recommend it, but anyway, so there. You can use Windows encryption to encrypt your PowerShell scripts, as long as you've got a certificate. The encryption certificate, that script will also run. Can you please show us how to use Notepad++ to edit scripts? No, I don't use Notepad++. I use the PowerShell ISE to edit scripts, and I will be showing you guys how to do that later. Okay, so hey, that was cool. I got through all those questions, and we've still got a minute left to go. So resources that we've got. Coming back over here, the Scripting Guy blog, you definitely want to pay attention to that. The Getting Started articles and the Scripting Life articles, we've pointed to those. The 2011 scripting games start next week. These are linked directly from the Script Center pages, and you would want to participate in those. There is a beginner category that will allow you to do that and to compete. I've got an alias, scripter@microsoft.com. I'm on Twitter and Facebook, and these are the friendly names for the scripting guys. So scriptingguys.com, scriptingguys/blog, and Learn PowerShell. So those are good resources. We've already talked about the questions, and okay, so you want to sign up for tomorrow, if you will. Where'd the survey page go?
Oh, that was it. You were just on it there. That's
I missed.
That is the portal right there to the.
Oh, okay,
yep.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, so fill out the survey, and let us know if we liked it, and all of that. And that's it. I'm done.
All right. Thanks, Ed. And ladies and gentlemen, as Ed mentioned, if you would please take a moment before logging off today to fill out the survey. This is actually the portal to it. You can get there by clicking on any of the links that are currently posted. Also, you can print the slides to a PDF or in a PowerPoint for your convenience. The PDF can be found in the lower right-hand corner. You can click on the printer icon. That will allow you to print or save in a PDF format. They've also been uploaded as part of a PowerPoint format. If you want to find those are in the upper right-hand corner, and they are under the icon of the 3 documents there. With that, I'd like to extend a very special thanks to our presenter today, Mr. Ed Wilson, for his presentation and information. And thank you all for joining us. You may now disconnect from the audio portion of today's webcast, and have a great day.